Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel and to another video. I hope you are all doing really well. In this video I wanted to share with you some things that I wish I'd known before I started out on my Cricut journey. Now of course there are so many different things that I could say in this video. I'm going to pick out my top 5 favourites, especially for you. So without any further ado, let's jump straight on in. This is the majority of tools that I've got, and I wish someone had told me when I first started out on my cricketing journey that I did not need all of this stuff. Out of all of this, the things that I use the most are my brayer, which I think is an invaluable tool for making sure that your material is stuck down onto your mat firmly. This saves so much hassle with things lifting and tearing. I cannot begin to explain to you how brilliant it is. If you are starting out with your Cricut now, I would recommend this being the first thing that you invest in. The Cricut one's not that cheap, but it's definitely worth its weight in gold. The other thing that I use out of here is my True Control weeder, and that comes with other tools incorporated in it, but if I'm honest, I've never really used any of those apart from the knife blade. So you're going to need a weeding tool. The other thing that I use, just basic scissors. I don't need anything special. Occasionally I use this rotary cutter, but only really if I'm making something big or making one long continuous cut. If I'm just cutting cardstock or whatever, I tend to just go for my scissors every time. So out of all of these things, you could do without most of those, and I would recommend just getting yourself a brayer, a weeding tool, and a good pair of scissors. The next thing I wish I'd known is that not all mats are created equally. I have tried nearly every single machine mat that I can get my hands on, and I get through a heck of a lot of mats. So I've tried the Hobbycraft one, I have tried the tape mats, this one and this one are both from Shein. This one is an Amazon, and then this one is a good old Cricut one. Now I'm going to tell you a couple of things about each one of these different mats. Hobbycraft mat, £6.50 I think now each. With this, it was a great mat to start with. It was quite sticky considering that it was a light grip. The only problem I did find is that I like to place all of my cardstock face down when I cut it, because it gives me a smoother cut with less fluffy edges. And I did find that this mat left a sticky residue on my cardstock. So whilst it was okay if I was cutting something that was double-sided in the same colour, it was great, but when I was cutting things face down, it was a no-no. I did like this mat. It didn't last that long, probably about 7 days, because I do quite a lot of cutting with my Etsy store. But if you're just a hobby crafter, so to speak, you may get longer out of one of these mats. But I would recommend it, but not for if you are a face down cutter like myself. It was an accurate cut from placing it into the machine. If I were to put my cardstock up against this corner marking, that is where the cut would begin. It wouldn't be above or below, so I never ended up with any bits cutting wrong, but that was definitely a good mat to start with if you are a hobbyist. This Amazon one, I've had quite a few of these. Again, quite good. Probably lasted about 10 days on this one. It's a light grip. It didn't leave a residue. It was a good fit on the machine. Again, accurate when cutting, not losing any bits at the top or at the bottom. And I would recommend. Very good, quite cheap as well. This is another Amazon one that I have got here, and this is a strong grip. What I used this one for originally was some chipboard, and then once it started to get a little bit less sticky, I did move it over into the cardstock pile, and I started doing all of my banners and glitter cardstocks, which are a little bit heavier on this strong grip mat. Then this one is a light tack to tape machine mat. This is from MDP Supplies. Now this one is marketed as being for the Cricut, however it's not an accurate fit in the machine. So if I wanted to put this face into the machine with this hook at the top, I would find that I'd need to put my material right up against that. There's no 5mm gap on this mat which you don't cut on. The other thing is, if I were to turn it round and cut this way round, so the hook is on the bottom, I find that I lose bits of my design at the top. if I don't overlap onto where the numbers are very, very slightly, and that can be a little bit frustrating, especially if you are using material that you've not got much left of, or you've got one chance to make that cut. If it messes it up because your machine mat isn't quite accurate, that can be really annoying. So I do like these. Again, this one does leave a slightly sticky residue. The one thing that I do enjoy about these is that it's all in centimetres on all four sides of the mat, whereas the Cricut ones and the Shein ones and the Amazon ones have got centimetres on one side and then inches on the other. The one thing I don't like about these is the squares are not depictive of what you see on your screen when you go through to make it, so you'll get the smaller squares like you do on this Cricut mat here. And then this is like the god of all mats. So they're expensive, but they're expensive for a reason, because they work, they last a long time. This one has been on the go now for about 2 weeks and it still looks pretty new. As long as you keep putting the cover back on, you're going to be fine and it's going to last. The fit in the machine, of course, is 100% accurate every single time. It's made for your machine. It's absolutely perfect. As I said, all mats are not created equal, and if I were you, I'd try a few different ones, but I bet you'll come back to the Cricut ones every single time. The next thing that I wish I'd known when I first started with my Cricut was all of the different terminology. There are so many different things that I'd never heard of before, and I really didn't understand until I sat down and watched videos like this one that I'm making today for you. So let's jump over into Design Space, where I'm going to make a small cheat sheet. It will be on my profile for you. If you want to, you'll be able to print it out. Just print it and pretend that it's going to be a print then cut. It will be flattened ready for you. And then you'll be able to see all of the different terminology and get your head around what everything means. When you're first starting out with your Cricut or any craft, the materials that you select are going to be mind-boggling because there's so many different options available. For example, I just wandered around my local Hobbycraft and I found their basic range here is super cheap. However, I don't know whether it'd be much good for cutting with your Cricut because it's cheaper. You may find that the material isn't quite such good quality. And then you've got these on the other hand. So you've got the more premium type of cardstock packs. They are a lot more expensive and it's going to be a bigger investment for you when you're first starting out. It is really easy to fall into a false sense of security when you're buying materials to use on your Cricut, and unfortunately when it comes to materials we do often find that it is a case of you get what you pay for. I have been a victim of buying the cheaper materials and I've found that they do tear, they catch on my blade, they don't stick well to my mat, and then I end up actually spending more by rebuying a better quality material than I would have done if I'd have just gone for that in the first place. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go out and you spend lots of money on materials and you put yourselves into debt for it. What I would suggest doing is trying a few materials and seeing how you get on with them, but don't go for the bottom priced materials. It doesn't always mean that it's not going to be any good, but 9 times out of 10 you're going to have problems with it. I often find that the cheaper cardstocks tend to be a little bit fuzzy and they don't tend to cut very well on the machine if the card isn't really smooth, because the blade will catch on it and then it tears it up for you. I've listed below some of my favourite cardstocks that are available in local shops around the country, and I'm sure that you'll be able to pick something up that you enjoy to use with your machine. If you'd like a particular recommendation for a colour or for a texture or anything like that that you'd like to make a project with but you're not sure where to get that from, please ask me in the comments down below and I'll do my best to find a good one for you, because I've got quite a big selection of cardstocks in my craft room, so I'm sure I've got something to keep you covered. The last thing that I wish I knew before I started with my Cricut journey is that you don't have to buy everything Cricut branded. Now there are so many different suppliers for different things, from tools to mats to cardstock to vinyls. All of those different things come from different suppliers now and they are brilliant quality. I personally never tend to buy any Cricut branded materials anymore because I just don't enjoy using them. Anything that I've got left in my stash cardstock wise will have come from a bundle when I bought my last machine, and vinyl would have been from the mystery box that I bought a couple of years ago. If you've not seen that video, I'll pop it above for you and down below in the description so you can check it out. I don't tend to enjoy using the Cricut materials and they are very expensive, so I would definitely suggest checking out other suppliers. I'll pop a few of my favourite ones on the screen now for you so you can check them out and pick up some really good bargains in the future for making your projects.